One.
And we're live.
We are. Welcome to Travel Business Mastermind's first Facebook Live event. We started these because we regularly get questions either through Facebook Messenger or through emails, consulting with clients on a regular basis. And we wanted to enter into 2020. Scheduling these probably every 2 weeks, so look for us on Mondays at 1 o'clock. And we're going to talk about all the core issues that we train people on in our 12-week training program. And we do consulting one-on-one with advisors as well. And we're going to try to structure this in some order where we talk about foundational issues. And then as the year progresses in 2020, we'll get into some more details around the things that you use once you master sort of the foundational skills. So on your screen is Myrna Arroyo.
Hi, everyone.
Myrna has been a travel advisor for 7 or 8 years now.
About 7 years.
7 years. Myrna is with Virtuoso. She's also hosted by Largay Travel up in Connecticut. Hey, Largay.
Hi, Largay.
And Myrna also, well, amongst other things, she's got a law degree. She's got an MBA. And she's got her own marketing company, and she's been helping advisors for years, and is just teaching me things that I'm just incredibly grateful to be working with her. For me, I've been in corporate communications, marketing, branding, you name it. And while I've never been a travel advisor, I've worked with travel advisors closely over the last 3 years, and I've consulted with quite a few, and I'm so proud to say that we just in December finished up the first cohort of Travel Business Mastermind, the 12-week online training program. So what we wanted to start doing now is talking about, like I said, some of the foundational elements that you need. And my big thing is storytelling. And what I tell people is you cannot begin to both know what your story is and structure your story until you get to the why. And we wrote 2 blogs, Myrna and I, over the last few days about what does that mean, and how do you do it, and why is it important? So we wanted to go over a little bit about the blogs, and then over time, as you guys want to ask questions, feel free to do so in the chat. But we wanted to kind of go over some of the basic principles. So one of the things that we say all the time, both to our consulting clients and to our students in the training program, is that if you want to grow your business, you need to be able to quickly, easily, and consistently over time convey what the unique value proposition is with your business. What do you stand for? What does your business stand for? How do the suppliers that you have underneath all of that value proposition support the why you do this? And, Scott Kopp, who's been in the industry forever, and if anybody has ever not seen him speak publicly, try to get on an agenda where Scott's going to be speaking. But he always says to people at some of his presentations, when I ask someone, why did they become a travel advisor, they say, because I love travel. And Scott always says, that's not enough. Mm-hmm. The why isn't just that you're a travel advisor. There's something else deeper there, and you need to get to that in a deeper fashion. Myrna, why did you become a travel advisor? What's your why?
Well, my why is I did this why exercise recently. And so I really didn't know what my why really was until a few months ago, really, but what I figured out when I went through the why exercise, which are some of the steps that Richard's going to go over, is that my why is about helping people achieve extraordinary things. So the kind of trips that I put together for my clients are the big bucket list trips. This is what I love to do. I love sending people on safaris to Antarctica. The more exotic, the more difficult it is to get there. I love to work on those kind of trips. And then of course, in my coaching business, I love to help travel advisors achieve extraordinary goals. I mean, we're all normal people. We're all trying to make a living. But what really gets me fired up is when I can help someone achieve one of these bucket list goals, whether it's a business goal or a travel goal. And that's what's really amazing about your why, is when you figure out what your why really is, it's not necessarily just apply to your business. It applies to pretty much everything you do in your why, in your life. Richard, someone's asking, what's your why?
What's my
What is
why?
it? Yeah.
Oh, actually, no, that's me asking
Oh,
that.
that's me asking them. Okay, sorry. I thought that was sorry. We're getting used to this Facebook Live thing. But anyway, it's important because once you figure that out, then it makes it easier for you to really write that story about you, that story about your message, and then connect that to your ideal client.
So, Myrna, have you found certain suppliers don't answer that question for you, and that you've either had to cull them out of the list of preferred suppliers, or you've bumped into suppliers where you said, wow, they're part of my why?
Yeah. So, for example, yeah, everybody has their favorite suppliers, but one of my favorite suppliers is G Adventures. I just love everything about them. I love how they help people go on adventures. Of course, G Adventures is in their name. I love booking adventure type trips, epic trips. I love their commitment to sustainability. There's a lot of things about them that resonate with who I am as a person. And so, of course, it makes it super easy for me to sell them. With cruise lines, the same thing. I really love the expedition cruise lines because, again, they're taking people on a luxury cruise, but a little bit extra. So understanding, who I am and who I like to work with as travelers has helped me then select suppliers that really fit that model. So when I go to a client, it's consistent with my brand. It's consistent with what I put out there. And so if I have the right client in front of me, they're going to see me as the perfect fit for them.
And if you were listening closely to Myrna, what we will tell you is it may take you time and it may feel difficult at times getting to your why, but it will simplify your life when you do. It will simplify how you approach suppliers. It will simplify what a Facebook post looks like for you, a winning Facebook post looks like. It will simplify, coming up with the content for your blogs and your newsletters. Getting to why is so crucial because it's what you're naturally inclined to do. It's what you're naturally inclined to be. So all of these other tasks that you want to accomplish to support your marketing, to figure out, which suppliers you want in your database, that all happens because you know your why. You've built that up. Erna?
Exactly. And, it's something that for a long time I skipped. I mean, I'm kind of an impatient person and I like to get right to goals and results and things. And so I resisted doing this why exercise for months. I had been told about it about 6 months ago. And the best way to do this is with a partner or a coach. So I actually had another marketing consultant I partnered with to do each other's why. But, once I did it, I was like, you know what? It wasn't that hard. It was really worth it. And now it just makes my message even clearer. I had worked a lot on my messaging before. I thought it was really good, but I was missing this key little element, and figuring out my why helped me do that.
Yep.
And of course, there's a book you can read about it. It's literally called Find Your Why. You can find it on Amazon. But of course, we're going to tell you kind of how to do it today. If you don't want to read the book. I actually never read the book myself. I just read the little appendix where it says how to do the exercise because that's just me. But
so, I am a linear thinker, but I'm also somebody who likes to view things physically in order to take abstract concepts and give me to-do items. And I know quite a few of the clients that we work with, the students that we train, travel advisors who just, query me ad hoc, say, well, Rich, but how? So one of the things that we posted in both of the blogs was an innovative diagnostic that two married psychologists produced for people who are dating. And it's called the 36 Questions to Falling in Love. And while that's about dating and you're about being a business owner, we think there's a lot of corollaries, a lot of parallel paths in the concept, because someone becomes aware of you and then they decide to have a date with you. Well, that's very much like someone viewing your website or your social media and going, wow, not only am I aware of you, but there's something about you that I might want to invest a little bit more time and effort into. So that's a consult call with you. And similarly, when you go on a date with somebody and you're trying to evaluate whether or not they're worth a second date, you're having a conversation. You don't just look at them physically and see the superficial. You want to get to know them better and whether or not they're worth your time. Well, it's the same thing with you and your clients. You're interviewing them, they're interviewing you. And the types of questions that the Aarons came up with, Arthur and Elaine, are actually a cool diagnostic tool that you can adapt to the way that you think about your why and start to understand it. Because what they do is they progressively bring you into more vulnerability and to a deeper intimacy with yourself. The same way that the Aarons were trying to draw another individual into deeper vulnerability and into intimacy with somebody that they're sitting across from and having a date with. So, for example, in the first set of questions that the Aarons have, they say, given the choice of anyone in the world, whom would you want as a dinner guest? It's not overly intimidating. I would want to sit down with Albert Einstein or Franklin Delano Roosevelt or Eleanor Roosevelt. Okay, why would you want to do that? And it starts to get the other person to go, oh, so these are some of your belief systems. You would want to meet with Eleanor Roosevelt because you're interested in people who challenge norms, who break through barriers, high intellect, compassionate. Oh, I get it. You're starting to reveal it. But as you get deeper into the 36 questions, the Aarons intelligently bring you into a space that may make you uncomfortable. It's an increasing vulnerability. So, for example, question 33, if you were to die this evening with no opportunity to communicate with anyone, what would you most regret not having told someone, and why haven't you told them yet? Look at the depth of that question compared to who would you like to go have dinner with, somebody famous. Now you're having someone look back on their life. What are some of the things that they regret the most? It may be something that was hurtful. It may be something that is very emotional to them. And not only are we asking that person to talk about that situation, but now they have to ask themselves, why have you saved this up? What's holding you back? That's tremendous vulnerability. And so the parallel for a travel advisor is questions for you like, okay, so you say that you love safaris. Well, why do you love safaris? Tell me about a safari you went on that changed your life. And why is it you want to sell that to other people? That now is starting to take you down a deeper path of vulnerability. And those answers are messages you should be having on your website. Instead of just posting a beautiful shot of a safari that you went on, what emotion did you feel in that moment? Why was that meaningful to you? Why should that potentially be meaningful to an ideal client? And so, Myrna and I like to bring people gradually over the 12-week training program, because the first diagnostic you get is somewhat superficial, but hopefully a little bit illuminating. And then we start giving you additional diagnostics over the 12 weeks that now make you start to go, oh, you want me to talk about that time that I went on vacation and it was a total disaster. And that eventually led to me and my brother not speaking for 6 weeks. Oh my goodness. Well, guess what? Now you're talking about the features of a trip, of a family vacation, of a multi-family vacation, where not organizing it properly can lead to, friction and problems. And you don't like that. And you want to make sure that doesn't happen for your clients. Think about how much more powerful that is for your ideal client when you're in touch with those aspects of your life. Myrna?
I agree. Actually, Mitch says, as we age, I want people to get the vacation they want and deserve, to live life fully without regrets. That's awesome, Mitch. That's a great why.
And I'll tell you, Mitch, we should definitely talk about how you're doing that. Claire McGuire is on, and Claire is an adventurer. But Claire is also a woman who's got a very deep personal emotional history in racing. And I had the privilege of getting to know her story and the story of her father and how his history of building and driving automobiles in an era when, Formula One wasn't as sophisticated as it is today, is such a deep part of not only her, but now she's introducing it into her travel business. So, Claire, at some point, maybe Myrna and I interview you on a Facebook Live about how that's working for you. Anybody else want to chime in on the chat page? Feel free to do so. So, the second blog that we wrote about was, why does this matter so much? And what can you do to start getting to your why? And if you go to our blog on Travel Business Mastermind, what you'll see is we quote we quote Simon Sinek, but quite a few other marketing gurus today feel the same way that Myrna and I do, which is that people don't just buy a vacation. Like Mitch says, he's trying to attract people who have a passion for their vacation, who feel like maybe they've lived with a little bit of regret and held themselves back. And now I want something even more. Well, that's what Seth Godin and Simon Sinek are saying today. And I love this quote from Sinek. It's, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And Seth Godin likes to say something very similar. I can't pull the quote out of the top of my head. So, getting to that why, and if you click on the link in the blog to Sinek's TED Talk, you'll hear how he gets to this. And we get to it a different way. We don't overtly say, what's your purpose, what's your cause, what's your belief system. Our diagnostic tools are a little bit more specific to events that happened in your life, to things that you're most proudest of, because we think that more directly relates to an answer you can pull out of your memory bank. But if you watch his video, he really does draw you into the fact that when you understand these things, you unleash this superpower that's inside you. Because just like I went to see Little Women on Friday night with my girlfriend Lisa, and read the book in 8th grade. I think I saw the Elizabeth Taylor version in junior high school as an accompaniment to reading the book. And there were some powerful themes in that book that come from the direct experience that Louisa May Alcott had. She grew up in a period where women had expectations of them. They also had severe restrictions on how they could live their lives, social restrictions, legal restrictions, financial restrictions. And she told that story through a novel that she eventually wrote. And look at that. I mean, 160 years later almost, we're still producing powerful emotional movies about these themes that came out of a woman's life. You can say, you can teach a course on, women, you should, find your superpower, and you should become financially independent, and you should, not conform with society if that's not, what makes you happy. We could say these things, but look how much more powerful they are coming to you as a story, and how you get all of those concepts from walking through the life of a person. Well, we want people, prospects, clients, to walk as vulnerable as you can be through your life so that they can have that powerful experience and go, oh my goodness, I get it. I've talked to several women over the last couple of days about what that book means to them, and they all say the same thing. It was a personally liberating experience to read that book as a child, to give me, a different way of looking at my life. We want people to look at vacations through your eyes, because they're already thinking it. They just need somebody like you to help them envision it. And that only comes through this process.
Right. And so it really comes from your personal stories. If you read the book, Find Your Why, the process to find your why really comes from, like Richard says, is stories about your life. And they don't need to be about travel. They could be about anything. But by finding, by going through these stories with a facilitator, it's usually you need to do it with another person because, of course, we don't see our own things.
We're blind.
Because we're blind to our own stories sometimes. But by going through the process of telling these stories, and then the person on the other end is just listening, maybe asking a question here and there, but mostly listening. And they're listening for patterns in your stories. So what's going to happen is as you tell these 5 or 6 stories of things from your life, patterns are going to emerge. And hidden in those patterns is your why. And so that is similar to what we do with our students in the coaching program. So Richard pulls these stories out of you, and he does focus on travel moments because we're trying to use this for travel marketing. But we take those stories to find those themes that really kind of encapsulate your brand, because this is really about your personal brand, and your personal brand is what's going to attract certain clients to you and then certain clients not. So we want to make sure that we create that personal brand that's really effective of attracting who you want to attract. And in order to do that, the very first step is these stories, this why process. Who are you really? And why are you doing this? And why do you like to work on these kind of trips? And why do you want these kinds of clients? And once you get that nailed down, then it becomes so much easier to create all of your content, because now we have the heart of your message, the heart of your brand. And that's because ultimately, like Richard always says, you have to make these prospects fall in love with you, and they're not going to fall in love with you if they don't know you. So this is how you help them get to know you, is through the content you create, the things you post on Facebook, the pictures that you take and write about in your blog. All of these things are really putting your brand out there. But if they're not clear, and if they're not really reflecting you, then it's not going to work. You're going to create content and it's not really going to resonate. And you're going to feel like, I'm doing all this work, but no one is responding. What is the matter with me? And it's not that anything's the matter with you. It's just that your content is not clear and it's not conveying who you are effectively. And so this is why we recommend that you do this why exercise, because it really helps you get to that nugget of truth at the heart of who you are.
Yep. Any new messages? I don't see anything.
No, I don't see anymore. No.
Okay, so we're going to give you now 5 tips on, well, how do I do this? And we preach this all the time in our training programs when we speak. There are really some very simple things you can do consistently over time that will constantly bring you back to your why. And one of the things that I want to emphasize, and it's actually I think it's our 5th tip, is that please don't hold any expectations or judgments about how your story reveals itself. There are people who have written the great American novel, 20 years after they started it, 20 years after they first thought about it. And it was a very personal experience, but sometimes the deepest stories take time. And as you write it down and talk it through and mention it here and mention it there to people, and finally, get vulnerable and post it on a Facebook post or social media post, you start to hear these things and you start to see the connections. Now, Myrna and I can get you there faster. So if you want to join the training program with us, we can try to expedite things if you're willing to. It's all up to you. But there are steps that you can take. And the first step is, and I'm trying to make, make time and space for it. It's like anything. If you don't make time in the morning to do yoga, you're not going to do yoga. If you don't make time for a relationship, you're going to have a bad relationship. The same thing for your story. And it's interesting because I've been doing this exercise now, probably almost 3 years. I started out with Travel Institute and we did it with people. And we consistently see 80% of the people who do this first diagnostic tool, they didn't make time for it. They squeezed it in before they started their business work hours in the morning. They did it during the lunch hour. They did it after work was done and they were frustrated and thinking about that client who called and had one more demand. You are going to struggle at first if you do not make time to be with yourself, to think about, the 36 questions. Turn those 36 questions into the 36 questions about your why. If you don't grab a glass of wine and disappear from the kids or the husband or the wife or whatever, then you're not really listening to yourself. And I practice meditation, and I know that if I try to meditate on the subway train, or if I try to meditate in a coffee shop, it's not the same as making time and space to allow things to come up. So make time and space for getting to your why, asking yourself those questions. I just got off the phone with a travel advisor that Myrna and I are working with, and she announced to me, Rich, I went and bought a notebook just for my business, just for me to think about this business and what it means to me, and how things are going. That's the first step. My people who know me know that my symbol is the dragonfly, and I was out one day at getting stationery for my 16-year-old son for school, and that's what I got. How do I do it? There we are.
There it is.
So that's my notebook about me, about my business, about my relationships, about my kids, about my life. And that book is sacred space for me. And I try to make time to think about important things and then go back and see the patterns. And so make time, make space for it. Number 2, don't be satisfied with your first answer. The reason why Myrna and I stage over 12 weeks this process of getting deeper into your why is because your first answer is going to be very sort of, knee-jerk reaction. It's going to be, oh, I got to write something down. But the thing is if you make a post about that knee-jerk reaction and you see how your clients respond, how your followers respond, and then one day you're scrolling back through your news feed and you remember something else on that same post that you didn't put in there. Again, you're digging deep. And if anybody's ever been through therapy, you know that the first 2 or 3 sessions are time where you are really just starting to come to terms with the process and starting to disclose things. And it's over time that your story reveals itself in a way that you can start to do something with it. So be kind to yourself, but do go deeper. We have this phrase, and this, if you come see us speak, we've got one slide that says why, question mark, why, question mark, why, question mark. It may take you 6 whys before you finally get to the real why, the deepest why that'll resonate with your clients. So, Myrna, I'm babbling on.
That's okay. That's okay. No, it's true. It's true. It is a work in progress, and you have to give yourself space and time to get it done. And it may not come like in a flash. Like after I did my why session with my friend, I had some ideas. I knew there was something in there about, coaching and enabling, but I couldn't really put it together, and I kind of slept on it. And like about a week later, suddenly I'm like, this is it. And then I emailed her. I said, okay, this is what I think it is. And she's like, yes, I think that's perfect. And we, so we published it. But again, it doesn't mean that that's it forever. Like I may decide to refine it further, 2 months from now, something will come to me. But the point is you have to be kind to yourself, and you have to just let yourself do it at your own pace. But like I said, it really helps if you have a colleague or a friend that you can bounce things off. That helps it go faster. But honestly, a lot of it is the kind of work Richard's talking about, writing in your journal, or, thinking about your business, thinking about your life, thinking about how it all fits together, and the things about your business where you get the most meaning, the most sense of purpose and connection. That's like a clue that you might be getting close to your why.
Think in superlatives is tip number 3. So, we throw the phrase around, who's your ideal client? So what we do through our diagnostics is we take you to the next level on the answer to the ideal client. Because very often what people write when we ask them who they think their ideal client is, it's bullet points. And it's more demographics than it is psychographics, than it is what we like to say to people is, when you answer who my ideal client is, at some point you should literally be able to see them sitting in front of you at your kitchen table having a discussion with you. That's the level of intimacy you've started to gain with that ideal client. And there's a process to that, and superlatives can help you get there. So one of the questions that we ask our students is, tell us about your most favorite client, the client whose trip you loved putting together for them, that you loved following them on social media, that they wrote you the most glowing testimonial. Using those superlatives helps you both remember who that person was and revisit those emotions and revisit how you got to that point. But it also separates them from everybody else, because while the pie of your clientele may only rely on 40% being your ideal client, you need to know who that 40% is, because the more that you can replicate them, the more that maybe those other clients who earn you a smaller commission become out of the equation. And now you can actually run your business with fewer clients who are driving not just the financial fulfillment, but your emotional fulfillment. So use those superlatives when you're asking yourself why. Why do I love selling, safaris? What was the best safari trip I ever booked? Who's my most favorite safari supplier and why? Use those superlatives, dig deeper. Number 4, get yourself a why journal. Absolutely. Don't leave this to a haphazard collection of notes in paper folders where you've got 17 different Post-it notes and 3 different pages from a loose leaf notebook, because if you can't quickly look at it, if you can't take it with you on a fam trip and flip through it while you're on the plane, it's going to be harder for you to revisit that why and for those stories to emerge and for the why to emerge. So get yourself a why journal. And then finally, tip number 5 is treat yourself kindly. Too often, we are impatient people. We want instant gratification. We want to understand truths now versus letting them emerge. And we place judgments on ourselves that become an obstacle to getting to why. Well, why can't I figure out my why? What's wrong with me? Or what am I doing wrong? Or, we start putting all these labels on ourselves. And that is very unkind and not helpful to the process. So this is, just like therapy is a journey, just like life is a journey. The more we just live in the moment, accept things objectively, seek truth, seek a deeper meaning, but without applying labels to them, the faster and the easier and the more powerful your why is going to emerge. And a big part of that is coming to terms with the fact that sometimes it takes time, and sometimes you think you've got it. And a week later, you have that V8 moment and you go, how could I have been so stupid? No, you weren't stupid. It just wasn't the right moment for the why to reveal itself. And now you're further down the path.
Yep, agreed. So that's our 5 tips. Again, it's a great exercise to do. If you have time, if you're a reader, definitely pick up the book. The book really helps you in terms of how to get this done. Of course, this is something that we work on, of course, in our 12-week program with our clients. We actually get on the phone with them to help them get these stories out. That's part of our process, because we think that, both of us believe that until you have your marketing message dialed in to both who you are and who that ideal client is, it's really a waste of money to do any other marketing, because it's not going to be as effective as it could be. And you're going to leave money on the table if you're not putting out the right message. So that's all I have to say.
So this is critical, this whole concept of getting to this. And you can do this in tandem with the other things that you need to do for your business. Business planning. Here we are on the eve of 2020, a brand new year. Whether you are a resolution maker or not, whether you are a business planner or not, it's a good time to take a look at the foundation of your business heading into next year. One of the exercises that we do in our training program is we have people go and audit their content to see, after they kind of understand their why, whether or not they've been reflecting it. Because Once you start to see the way you're projecting yourself out there, then you can start to see, how do I take the numbers that move through my business, the number of people who follow me on Facebook, the number of people who give me an inclination that they might want to book a consult call with me, they subscribe to my email newsletter, they download my lead magnet. Once you start to understand the foundation and that powerful message and whether or not it's resonating, that's when you can start to say to yourself, okay, so if I'm going to be selling a lot more safaris in 2020, what do those commissions look like? What's the sales cycle? Is that a 12-month sales cycle, an 18-month sales cycle? Now you can actually start to look at your business and start planning how you're going to use these words and these emotions and these vignettes and these testimonials to pay the bills, to make your business as financially fulfilling as it is emotionally fulfilling. So in 2 weeks, where next Facebook Live is going to be about, goal setting and business planning, as deeply as we can get into it in a short Facebook Live presentation, based on having that foundation in place. So by all means, subscribe to like us on Travel Business Mastermind. We'll be putting out notices about the next Facebook Live. We're hopefully going to be inviting guests, including travel advisors, to be live with us in 2020. But we would like to be able to get you through January with at least some understanding of how you can take control over your business, that you are not at the whim of how many people dial in for wave season, but you brought in the ideal clients you wanted for wave season, and that you've attracted them, and they get who you are, they get the services that you offer, and they are in sync with you. We want to do that so that you can say, well, how many people do I need to close on between now and the end of wave season to meet my goals for 2020? We're going to start walking it down that path.
Yeah. And likewise, wave season is a really busy time. And, we do hear people say like, oh, I'm too busy to focus on this because it's wave season. But, that is a really damaging thought, because what happens during wave season is you get a lot of leads. Some of them are great and some of them are not so great. So the better you get at quickly identifying the ones that are good, those are the ones that you're going to want to attract. And then the ones that are kind of a waste of time, they're just price shopping, you can deprioritize those, because it's really important not just that you get lots of leads, but you get the right clients into your business. And so that's just my caveat about wave season. It is kind of hectic, but I think you always have to make time for working on your business, no matter how busy you get. And yes, I know it's hard, because I do the same thing. I get caught up in the day-to-day and forget to do things that I need to do every week to keep my business on track, like looking at your numbers and looking at your business plan and seeing, whether you're on track to meet those goals. So Mitch says, instead of goals, I read to substitute strategic pillars. Goals have endings, pillar. Yes, I love pillars. Like we have pillars for our program. Our pillars are messaging, business planning and strategy, and systems, because we think that you need all three to build a successful business. So a lot of what you're going to see with our content is that we're working on those pillars. So thanks for that comment, Mitch. That's awesome. Very insightful.
And what I like about pillars is that you can build new ones. Mm-hmm. And when you realize that your business is changing, you can knock one down, because you know what? It doesn't serve you anymore. Goals are targets to shoot for, but if you mm-hmm. don't have these pillars in place that give you the ability to go pursue them,
right,
then you really, those are just stretch goals that you came up with, and they're inspirational, but you really can't aspire to them because you don't have the pillars in place. So thank you, Mitch. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Well, should we wrap it up?
I think we shall.
Does anyone have any last questions? We'll hold on for a minute or two in case anybody has anything else to ask in the chat. I don't see anything. Thanks for those of us who joined us live. And if you're watching us on the recording, thank you also.
Yep.
We're going to leave this up on the Facebook page. We're also going to post it to our YouTube channel. So you can always revisit it at any time. And then we'll include links to those blog articles that Richard mentioned, and maybe a couple other resources that we think are helpful for you as you work through your why. And we'll post that in Facebook when we post the video recording.
Okay, so again, Happy New Year to everybody. Make it one that makes you happy. You take control over this. This is not, you do not float on the ocean. You are in command of that ship. So, know what your pillars are, Mitch, and set sail for the places you want to visit. Don't, wait for someone else to set you on that course. So Happy New Year.
All right. Bye, everyone. Happy New Year.